So, decent for we the people news. This is a learning video and I'm not an attorney, so don't take it as such. Alrighty? Let's proceed forward.
I would love to do that. Now, this all happened before the founding of the United States. So, one of the things I've studied quite a bit is how did this end up in part of our legal system? Well, it has a lot to do with the American Revolution. And I'm going to tell a couple of these stories. But first I want to share with you this book, wonderful book called The Trials of Allegiance, Treason, Juries, and the American Revolution by Carlton F.W. Larson. We had a reading group on this. All of you who missed the reading group seriously missed out. It's an amazing book. What this man has done, and I as a person trained in engineering seriously appreciated this, he went through historical records of a particular time period in the midst of the American Revolution when a number of people in Philadelphia were being tried for treason. Well, what had happened in this case? In this situation, basically, the British came in, pardon me for our...
Let's pause this for a second, y'all. Sit and think about that for a minute. When was the last time a grand jury or any type of jurors, period, tried any of our government officials or judges for treason or for being tyrants? Are we supposed to be a country of the free? If they are committing crimes, the grand jury has the right to hear about it. Because of the Supreme Court's redefined government safety crap, again, become kings. A lot of our government officials not hold accountable. You know, we get these private courts that me and you don't have no say about, and letting the people suffer in cages called terrorism and being held without courts because they have no rights even though they are, wink wink, U.S. citizens. And these courts just keeps letting them sit in there. Our government keeps letting them sit in there. You decide. Where's the justice for, wink wink, U.S. citizens being tried? Right? Our government officials is not going by the Constitution whatsoever. And what she's talking about had kings. Alright? These judges we have are acting as kings. That's the reason why we can't do half the things that, well, the grand jury for tyranny or treason. Right? There was a grand jury for it.
UK citizen who is in attendance. Hopefully I get this right. You keep me honest. But the British came in and took some prisoners and basically took over the town and everything. And when that kind of shook out, people were accused of aiding them in various ways. And when they supposedly aided them in various ways, they were said to have committed treason. Well, there wasn't a really well-defined court system in the midst of the revolution. There weren't really well-defined rules for what constitutes treason, but what was clear was treason was punishable by death. And so what happened was this man, Professor Larson, went through the records from that time and compiled as much information as he could find on the juries in these treason trials. And essentially, I believe there is
Yeah. Treason trials. Where's that today?
it all shook out, many of the jurors served on multiple cases. Many of them had religious convictions against the death penalty. A number of them were Quaker, for example. And after a couple of people were convicted of treason, they started thinking, I don't feel good about that. It's not going to keep going on. And so there were just a bunch of people found not guilty. The people who had been convicted, the jurors then went back and asked for leniency, some level of pardon from the government in that case for most of those people. I believe there's only one person who actually was executed. And it looks like kind of what the jurors thought was, well, okay, maybe they helped the other side, but let's think about this. You've got a family, you've got property, you're just trying to scrape out a living and stay alive. There's this politically tumultuous time. You're just trying to get along with whoever you think is going to keep you alive. Maybe you're not invested in one side or the other, but you're just trying to take care of yourself and your family. And that's what these jurors kind of thought most of these people accused of treason were doing. And maybe they thought, oh, they shouldn't have done what they did to help the other side, but they could understand why they would want to do that, just to kind of keep themselves and their family safe. And is that something we really want to kill them for? One thing I hear a lot in liberty circles that disturbs me greatly is, especially, when we're talking about people in the government who are doing something we don't like, and there are plenty of those, believe me. I agree on that. But I will hear a lot of people, oh, treason, we gotta get these people on charges of treason. It's like, well, you might want to think about that a little bit. Just stop for a minute and think about if you had to go next door and harm your neighbor to the point of killing them. Is that something you really want to do? Is that something you want to take lightly and just toss that word around? I don't think that I would. And I can certainly understand these jurors having lived in the community with these people. Maybe they've done business with them. Maybe they have traded goods with them. Maybe they've helped them or been helped by them in some charitable way. Just then to be asked to say, yes, the government can go ahead and kill these people. That's a big ask, and that's something that hopefully we all take very seriously, as did these jurors in the midst of the American Revolution. So even as these people were thrown into a situation where they were trying to assert their rights as Englishmen, and I'm going to take a side trip on that in a minute. I'm going to write that down real quick because I don't want to forget that. As they were asserting their rights as Englishmen to participate in the English government, and absent that were ready to secede, here they were trying to uphold kind of the principles by which they themselves wanted to be judged. And so I really appreciate that about them in such a politically tumultuous time, with emotions running high and violence running high. That I really think took a lot of courage. The little side trip we're going to take really quickly is to mention a little bit about our first Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, John Jay. The reason we're going to take this side trip is because, coincidentally, this also happened on September the 5th, albeit I think about maybe not quite 100 years later. John Jay actually, with a committee of other colonists, penned an open letter to the citizens of Great Britain, I believe it was called. Is that correct at that time? I have to double check. I'm trying to pull it up here real quick. And this was pre-revolution. This was sort of laying the foundation for the revolution. But it was in 1774, so just a little over 100 years after the trial of William Penn. he penned on behalf of this committee an address to the people of Great Britain. And one of the things that he stated in it was that, quote, "We claim all the benefits secured to the subject by the English Constitution, and particularly that inestimable one of trial by jury," end quote. So that was in 1774. What he is more famous for in jury nullification circles is the very unusual trial of Georgia versus Brailsford. Georgia versus Brailsford is notable because it is one of, I believe there were only 3 known trials, jury trials at the United States Supreme Court level. Most people don't know that that is a possible thing that can happen, but there are certain limited circumstances specified in the United States Constitution wherein the Supreme Court can hold a jury trial. And of those 3 trials, this is the only one of which any substantial records seem to have survived. So thank you on behalf of jury rights educators everywhere for having those records preserved, because this case was particularly notable because of John Jay's instructions to the jury. And in those instructions, he basically told them, jurors, you are generally considered to be the experts on the facts of a case. We judges are generally considered to be the experts of the law. So if you want we'll tell you what the law is, and if you want to rely on our advice, that's generally what happens. Nonetheless, it is your right to judge for yourselves both the law and the facts in a case at hand. And so I love this address to the people of Great Britain, because now you kind of see where those instructions come from. Why was John Jay giving those instructions? Why did he have any sort of esteem for these jurors? Well, back 19 years before, he was talking about claiming all of the benefits.
Tell me when the last time that you guys actually had in the Supreme Courts of the 904s that there was actually a grand jury, or just a jury, period. Sit and think about that, y'all.
Secured to the subject by the English Constitution, including trial by jury. And this is a terrible copy to show you, but this book is entitled, it's a used copy, I believe it's out of print. It's entitled Verdict According to Conscience, Perspectives on the English Criminal Trial by Jury, 1200 to 1800. And why did they consider trial by jury inestimable? Well, this book documents some of that. And you can actually find the records from some of these trials online, in the online records of the Old Bailey. And one particular era in English history that he talks about is known as the Bloody Code era. There was a situation in which there was a bit of property crime rampant in England's forests in particular. People would steal wood, I believe, poach animals, that sort of thing. And they would do so having covered their face with a black substance so that they wouldn't be identifiable. And so I believe it's called the Waltham Black Act, and the black part of it comes from this substance they would cover their face with. They would try to black out their faces so they wouldn't be identifiable, so that it would be difficult to prosecute them. But because of this situation, the Waltham Black Act, and I think maybe another law or two also, essentially jacked up the penalty for a number of crimes that were even very minor ones, so that they were all punishable by death. So since I have a mostly American audience, just to give an example, one of the things that was listed was pickpocketing. And so what did jurors in these cases do? Are they going to execute someone for pickpocketing? Again, we're talking about a human being's life. It's your neighbor, someone maybe you've made friends with, someone who's maybe been kind to you. Maybe they fell on hard times and in an act of desperation stole something. That's wrong. But are you going to kill them for it? Well, not a lot of people feel good about that in pretty much any era. And certainly these jurors didn't. So if you look through the records of the Old Bailey, you will find cases in which someone is accused of stealing a certain amount, and just the part I'm going to translate a little bit for my American audience is, let's say the law says if you steal 20 bucks or more, you are, guilty of this felony level, death punishable theft. Well, we see records that are comparable to this in the Old Bailey where they say, oh, you were found with a $20 bill. We find that to be, the value of that to be $19.99. So you're guilty of a misdemeanor and you don't get killed. So that was a form of jury nullification in that they didn't convict them of what was strictly the accurate charge, so that they didn't have to punish them in a way that they felt was far, far too harsh to even be just. And one thing I like about that is we see analogs to that in modern cases as well, where maybe someone committed a higher level offense by the letter of the law, but jurors actually convict them of a lesser charge because they think, yes, you shouldn't have committed this offense, but there are mitigating circumstances, so we feel that higher level punishment is too much. And I'm going to talk about some of those cases as we start to transition to a little bit.
All right. This will be the People News. Until next time, y'all. Bye.